In the world of budget cars, some vehicles were not only cheap, but also cursed with hideous designs and terrible performance. These cars were the definition of, you get what you pay for. Affordable, yes, but at the cost of looks, reliability, and comfort. For those who couldn't afford anything better, these rides were often the only option. But they were far from dream cars. Ready to take a look at 12 of the ugliest and worst cars that only those on the tightest budgets could afford? Buckle up for a journey through design disasters and automotive nightmares. The Morris Minor, produced in the UK from 1948, is often remembered fondly for its charm and historical significance. But by the 1960s, its weaknesses began to outweigh its early successes. Initially conceived as a small, affordable car for post-war Britain, the Morris Minor became one of the most iconic British cars of its time. Its success in the early years can be attributed to its affordability, simple mechanics, and practicality. However, as the automotive industry evolved, the Morris Minor's once pioneering design fell behind the curve, and it struggled to remain relevant in the face of modern competition. When the Morris Minor was first introduced in 1948, it represented a step forward in small car design. Created by Alec Isagonis, who would later design the Mini, the Minor boasted advanced features for its time. It had a spacious interior, relatively good handling, and, for a small car, a level of comfort that made it appealing to families and budget-conscious buyers. Its affordability made it a hit in the post-war economy, where many people needed an inexpensive and practical means of transport. The Minor's smooth ride, owing to its torsion bar front suspension, was also a standout feature in the small car segment, setting it apart from many of its contemporaries. However, as the mid-1960s arrived, the Morris Minor's initial advantages began to fade. While it had been innovative in its early years, the car's design became increasingly outdated. Automotive design was rapidly evolving, and newer, more powerful models were entering the market with improved performance, safety features, and modern styling. In contrast, the Morris Minor retained its humble, somewhat conservative design, which started to feel old-fashioned compared to the sleek, streamlined vehicles being produced by other manufacturers. One of the most significant criticisms of the Morris Minor by the 1960s was its lack of power. While its engine had been adequate in the late 1940s and early 1950s, by the 1960s, the car's underpowered performance was glaringly obvious. The Minor was equipped with a small four-cylinder engine that struggled to keep up with the demands of modern driving. Acceleration was slow, and the car had difficulty maintaining high speeds, especially on highways, where it was often left behind by more powerful competitors. This lack of performance made the Morris Minor less appealing to buyers who sought a more dynamic driving experience. In addition to being underpowered, the Morris Minor also suffered from serious rust issues, particularly in the harsh British climate. Its body was prone to corrosion, and many owners found themselves dealing with rusted-out panels and structural damage. This was a major problem in an era when rust-proofing techniques were still relatively primitive, but it hit the Morris Minor particularly hard. The car's susceptibility to rust meant that it required frequent maintenance and repairs to remain roadworthy, which diminished its appeal to cost-conscious consumers who had initially been attracted to its affordability. As the automotive market became more competitive, the Morris Minor began to lose ground to newer models. By the 1960s, cars like the Mini and the Ford Cortina were offering better performance, more modern designs, and improved reliability, leaving the Minor feeling like a relic of an earlier era. The rise of small, affordable cars with more powerful engines and innovative features made the Morris Minor seem increasingly obsolete. While it remained beloved by a core group of enthusiasts, it was clear that the car's days were numbered as it struggled to keep up with the pace of innovation in the industry. The Morris Minor also faced challenges in export markets. While it had enjoyed some success abroad, particularly in countries like Australia and New Zealand, where it was seen as a sturdy, reliable vehicle for rural areas, it struggled to compete with more advanced cars in markets like the United States. American consumers, in particular, were looking for cars with bigger engines, more features, and modern styling, all areas where the Morris Minor lagged behind. Despite its shortcomings, the Morris Minor retains a special place in automotive history. For a time, it was one of the best-selling cars in Britain, and it played a crucial role in providing affordable transport to thousands of families in the post-war period. It was also a car that could be easily repaired and maintained by owners, contributing to its popularity among DIY enthusiasts. Even as it became outdated, the Morris Minor remained beloved by collectors and car enthusiasts who appreciated its simple. The Renault 6, produced in France from 1968 to 1980, was intended to build upon the success of the iconic Renault 4 by offering a slightly larger, more comfortable vehicle for families. However, despite the company's attempts to modernize the popular formula of the Renault 4, the Renault 6 failed to live up to expectations and faced significant criticism throughout its production run. Though it shared some of the practicality that had made its predecessor a hit, it quickly became known for its sluggish performance, uninspired design, and a host of reliability issues that ultimately overshadowed its initial promise. When Renault introduced the Renault 6 in 1968, it was marketed as a more refined alternative to the Renault 4. The car was meant to offer more space, a more comfortable ride, and a level of quality that would attract families looking for a step up in practicality without sacrificing affordability. The Renault 6 was equipped with a 491 front-wheel drive layout, which helped maintain the practicality and versatility of the Renault 4, but with a more modern look and an updated body style. On paper, it seemed like a logical evolution of the Renault small car lineup, with the potential to meet the growing demands of a changing market. However, once the Renault 6 hit the road, it became clear that the car had several glaring issues. One of the most prominent problems was its sluggish performance. Powered by a small engine, initially the same 845 cubic centimeter unit found in the Renault 4, the Renault 6 struggled to deliver anything resembling spirited driving. With just 30 horsepower, the car had difficulty reaching highway speeds and was notoriously slow to accelerate, making it frustrating to drive in urban settings and inadequate for long-distance travel. Later models received a slight boost in power with the introduction of a 1.1-liter engine, but even this upgrade failed to solve the car's underpowered nature. For many buyers, the Renault 6's lack of performance was a significant drawback, especially when compared to competitors that offered more powerful engines and a more engaging driving experience. The handling of the Renault 6 was another area where it failed to impress. The car's suspension was designed for comfort, but this came at the expense of stability and precision on the road. The Renault 6 had a soft, wallowing ride that felt disconnected from the road, making it difficult to control in tighter corners or at higher speeds. This was particularly noticeable when compared to cars like the Citroen 2CV, which, despite its modest power, was known for its agile handling and smooth suspension. The Renault 6, by contrast, felt clumsy and unresponsive, adding to its reputation as a car that lacked both power and finesse. In addition to its lackluster performance and handling, the design of the Renault 6 failed to capture the imagination of buyers. The car's styling was often described as awkward and unattractive, lacking the charm and personality that had made the Renault 4 a beloved icon. The Renault 6 featured a somewhat boxy utilitarian shape that was reminiscent of the Renault 4, but without the simplicity that had made its predecessor's design so endearing. While it aimed to be more modern and comfortable, it ended up looking uninspired and, to many, dated. The proportions of the car were often criticized, as its bulky body seemed at odds with its modest engine, creating an imbalance between its visual appearance and actual performance capabilities. One of the Renault 6's most notorious flaws was its tendency to rust. Rust was a common issue in many European cars of the era, but the Renault 6 seemed especially prone to corrosion. The car's thin sheet metal and lack of proper rust proofing meant that it could succumb to rust relatively quickly, particularly in damp climates. For buyers in Northern Europe, this made the Renault 6 a risky investment, as it required frequent maintenance to keep rust at bay. This problem, combined with the car's already unremarkable performance, seriously harmed its reputation in the long run. The Renault 6's susceptibility to rust became so well known that it was a major factor in its decline in popularity during the 1970s. While the Renault 6 Citroen offered some practical features, such as a spacious interior and a comfortable ride on smooth roads, these benefits were often outweighed by its shortcomings. The car's poor build quality, especially in terms of rust protection, meant that it did not age well, and owners frequently faced mechanical problems. Even the improvements made in later models, such as the introduction of a more powerful engine and slight adjustments to the suspension, were not enough to rescue the Renault 6 from its reputation as an unreliable and unattractive car. As the 1970s progressed, the Renault 6 struggled to compete with newer, more advanced models from both domestic and international manufacturers. The Rambler Marlin, produced by American Motors Corporation, AMC, from 1965 to 1967, was an ambitious attempt to enter the sporty, fastback car market, a space dominated by models like the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Corvair. AMC, known for its more practical and economy-oriented vehicles, wanted to push beyond its traditional image and create a car that would appeal to a younger, more style-conscious audience. Unfortunately, despite its unique design and effort to capture the growing trend of fastback cars, the Marlin failed to achieve significant commercial success, largely due to its awkward proportions, bland performance, and the same reliability issues that plagued other AMC models. When AMC introduced the Rambler Marlin in 1965, it aimed to stand out with a distinctive, sweeping fastback roofline, a bold departure from the more conservative styling of its other models. The Marlin was based on the Warner Rambler Classic platform, which meant it was a relatively large car compared to other sporty fastbacks of the time. This immediately created a design issue. While fastbacks were typically sleek, compact, and sporty, the Marlin's size gave it an awkward, stretched look that didn't quite capture the athletic appeal that buyers were looking for. The fastback design, meant to be the car's defining feature, ended up emphasizing the Marlin's bulk rather than giving it a streamlined appearance. Proportionally, the Marlin was a bit of an oddity. The fastback roofline didn't blend smoothly into the car's rear, giving it a mismatched, bulky rear end that contrasted sharply with the more squared-off front. The overall look was criticized for being unbalanced, as it lacked the cohesive, fluid lines of other fastbacks like the Mayford Mustang or the Plymouth Barracuda. Many saw it as AMC trying to force a fastback roof onto a mid-size sedan, rather than designing a car that was truly sporty from the ground up. Beyond its aesthetic shortcomings, the performance of the Marlin left much to be desired. While AMC advertised it as a sporty vehicle, it was hampered by its weight and underwhelming engine options. The car came with a range of engines, including straight-six and V8 options, but even the more powerful V8 models didn't deliver the kind of performance that consumers expected from a car that was supposed to be sporty. The Marlin was relatively heavy for its class, and its acceleration and handling didn't match the nimble feel of smaller, sportier rivals. As a result, the Marlin ended up feeling more like a dressed-up Rambler Classic than a true muscle car or sports coupe. Another factor that hurt the Citroen Marlin's appeal was its interior, which was more in line with AMC's reputation for economy and practicality than with the upscale, performance-focused image that fastback buyers were looking for. The Marlin's interior was spacious and comfortable, but it lacked the flair and sporty touches that could have made it more desirable to younger buyers. While the car was certainly roomy and well-suited for long-distance cruising, this wasn't enough to compensate for its lack of excitement behind the wheel. Buyers who wanted a car with both style and performance were left disappointed by the Marlin's more sedate, family car feel. In addition to its design and performance issues, the modern Marlin suffered from the same reliability problems that had long been associated with AMC vehicles. Throughout the 1960s, AMC struggled with quality control, and the Marlin was no exception. Owners reported issues with the car's build quality, including mechanical failures and premature wear on components. This hurt the Marlin's reputation at a time when American consumers were becoming increasingly discerning about the durability and long-term reliability of their vehicles. compared to competitors like Ford and Chevrolet. AMC's offerings were seen as less dependable, which made potential buyers hesitant to take a chance on the Marlin, especially given its relatively high price for an AMC vehicle. Despite these shortcomings, AMC tried to improve the Marlin during its short production run. In 1967, the Marlin was moved to the larger AMC Ambassador platform in an effort to differentiate it further from the Rambler Classic and give it a more upscale feel. However, this change only accentuated the car's size and weight issues, and it failed to solve the fundamental design and performance flaws that had plagued the model from the beginning. The larger platform made the Marlin even more ungainly, and the switch did little to boost sales. Ultimately, the Rambler Marlin was a car that failed to find its audience. AMC's attempt to create a sporty fastback car was undermined by the Marlin's awkward proportions, mediocre performance, and lack of reliability. The Austin Maxi, produced from 1969 to 1981, was a British car that, on paper, had the potential to revolutionize the family hatchback market. It was practical, offered an innovative 5-speed gearbox, and had a spacious interior that made it ideal for families. However, despite these promising features, the Maxi failed to live up to its potential due to several significant flaws, including its uninspiring design, chronic mechanical issues, and poor build quality. When the Austin Maxi was launched, it was touted as a groundbreaking model. It was the first British car to feature a 5-door hatchback design, combining the practicality of a family car with the convenience of a versatile cargo space. This was forward-thinking for the time, as hatchbacks were still a relatively novel concept. The Maxi also came equipped with a 5-speed manual gearbox, which was unusual in an era when most cars had only 4 gears. This was meant to improve fuel efficiency and enhance the car's driving experience, especially for long-distance travel. From a design and engineering standpoint, the Maxi seemed like a car that could set new standards in the midsize family car market. However, while the Maxi was innovative, it was held back by its bland styling. The car's appearance was boxy and unremarkable, lacking the sleek lines and aesthetic flair of competitors like the Ford Cortina or the Renault 16 Emulation. Its design was the result of British Leyland's decision to rush the car into production, and it showed. The Maxi's shape was uninspiring, with a flat front end and utilitarian proportions that didn't appeal to style-conscious buyers. At a time when cars were becoming more than just modes of transport and were being marketed as lifestyle products, the Maxi's dull appearance made it hard to compete against more visually appealing models. The Maxi also suffered from serious mechanical and quality control issues, particularly with its gearbox. While the 5-speed gearbox was a selling point, it became a major source of frustration for many owners. The gearbox was unreliable and prone to failure, with gear changes often being clunky and difficult. This was a significant drawback for a car that marketed itself as innovative in terms of transmission technology. Moreover, the Maxi's hydroelastic suspension, designed to provide a smoother ride, often gave an inconsistent driving experience, contributing to the car's reputation for being unreliable on the road. Build quality was another major problem, as was the case with many cars produced by British Leyland. In the 1970s, the Maxi was plagued by poor manufacturing standards. Fit and finish were subpar, with panels often misaligned, doors that didn't close properly, and interior materials that felt cheap and were prone to wear. Rust was another common issue, particularly in the earlier models, which further tarnished its reputation for durability. These quality control problems became a source of frustration for many buyers, especially as they compounded the mechanical issues that already existed with the gearbox and suspension. Another reason for the Maxi's failure was its lackluster performance. The car's engine options, while adequate for basic driving, were not particularly powerful or exciting. The Maxi was underpowered, and its heavy body meant that even the most potent engine offered sluggish acceleration and poor handling. This lack of performance, combined with the clunky gearbox, made the Maxi far from enjoyable to drive. By comparison, competitors like the Ford Cortina and Vauxhall Viva offered better driving dynamics and more refined engine choices, which further highlighted the Maxi's shortcomings. In an attempt to improve sales, British Leyland introduced updates to the Maxi throughout its production run, addressing some of the gearbox and quality control issues. However, by then, the damage had been done. The car's reputation had already been marred by its early problems, and it struggled to shake off the perception of being unreliable and uninspiring. Even with its practical features, such as the spacious interior and hatchback design, these were not enough to overcome the car's persistent flaws. Ultimately, the Neo-Austin Maxi's failure can be attributed to a combination of factors. It's when bland styling what failed to excite potential buyers, and its mechanical and quality control issues made it an unreliable choice for families who needed a dependable car. While the Maxi's innovative 5-speed gearbox and practical design were ahead of their time, these positives were overshadowed by the car's many flaws. The Maxi remains an example of British Leyland's inability to capitalize on promising designs, as the company struggled with internal inefficiencies, labor disputes, and financial difficulties that affected the quality of its products during the 1970s. The Citroen LNA, produced from 1976 to 1985, was an attempt by Citroen to offer a simple, affordable, and compact city car. However, despite its modest goals, the LNA ultimately failed to make a significant impact in the highly competitive small car market of the late 1970s and early 1980s. It struggled due to its lack of power, uninspired design, and the presence of more stylish and reliable competitors, leading it to be overshadowed and largely forgotten over time. When the LNA was first introduced, it was essentially a rebadged and lightly reworked version of the Meilleur Peugeot 104, a product of the collaboration between Citroën and Peugeot under the newly formed PSA Group. At the time, Citroën was still recovering from its financial difficulties in the early 1970s, and the LNA was meant to be a cost-effective way to fill a gap in Citroën's lineup. It was positioned as a basic entry-level car aimed at young drivers and city dwellers, emphasizing simplicity and affordability. However, simplicity came at a cost. The LNA was powered by a small 602 cubic centimeter two-cylinder engine, a carryover from the Citroën 2CV Aneron, which meant that it was woefully underpowered for the needs of modern drivers. The car's top speed was barely enough for comfortable highway driving, and its acceleration was sluggish, making it ill-suited for anything beyond city commutes. Even though it was economical, offering good fuel efficiency, the lack of power left it feeling dated and outmatched by newer, more powerful small cars from competitors like the Fiat 127, Renault 5, and their Volkswagen Polo. The LNA's uninspired design didn't help its case either. While Citroën was known for its quirky, innovative designs, the LNA was a far cry from the creative brilliance of the Daihatsu or even the charm of the 125 show. Its boxy, utilitarian appearance lacked the flair that many consumers had come to associate with the Citroën brand. The LNA was designed more for function than form, with a simple, plain body that did little to attract attention. In an era when small cars were starting to offer more modern, stylish looks, the LNA's bland aesthetic made it an unappealing choice for buyers who were looking for more than just basic transportation. Another major issue was the build quality and reliability of the Citroën LNA. While the car was cheap to buy, it was also prone to rust and suffered from various mechanical problems over time. The interior, though simple, felt were cheap and poorly assembled, with many owners reporting issues with the fit and finish of the materials. The suspension, while offering a smooth ride in true Citroën fashion, couldn't compensate for the car's other shortcomings, particularly its lack of refinement and durability. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, the market for small, affordable cars was becoming increasingly competitive, with several manufacturers offering more attractive, reliable, and better-performing options. Cars like The Renault 5 and Peugeot 104 offered more power, better handling, and a more modern design, while the Volkswagen Polo brought German engineering and reliability to the table. Even within the PSA group itself, the Peugeot 104, which shared many components with the LNA, was seen as the superior choice, leaving little reason for consumers to choose the Citroen offering over its better-regarded sibling. While Citroen did make some updates to the LNA over the course of its production, including offering larger engine options like the 652 cubic centimeter two-cylinder, and later the 954 cubic centimeter four-cylinder engine. These improvements were too little, too late. The car remained fundamentally underpowered, and its reputation for being slow, unrefined, and unreliable persisted. Citroen's efforts to breathe new life into the LNA through these updates were not enough to overcome the car's poor reception and growing competition. In the end, the Citroen LNA's failure can be attributed to its lack of power, uninspired design, and subpar build quality. While it was an affordable option for budget-conscious drivers, the compromises made in its design and performance left it trailing behind its competitors. The LNA never achieved the cult status of the 2CV, nor the commercial success of other small cars of its time, and by the time it was discontinued in 1985, it had already been largely forgotten in favor of newer, better models. In hindsight, the LNA was a product of necessity rather than inspiration. Born out of Citroen's need to offer a cheap car in a time of financial difficulty. Unfortunately, it failed to capture the imagination of the public or to offer anything that truly set it apart from its rivals, resulting in its relatively short production run and eventual obscurity. The Frankfurt-Taunus Putrielio-Wasserm, 1960 to 1964, nicknamed the Badwan, a bathtub, due to its distinctive rounded, curvy body shape, was a unique attempt by Ford of Germany to innovate in the post-war automotive market. At first glance, the P3 stood out due to its bold and unconventional design, which was a significant departure from the boxy, angular cars of the 1950s. However, despite this attempt to break away from tradition, the Taunus P3 ultimately struggled with a combination of quality control issues, lackluster driving dynamics, and lukewarm market reception. When the Taunus P3 was launched in 1960, its curvaceous body was meant to symbolize a new, modern era of automotive design. In contrast to the angular styles that dominated the previous decade, the P3's smooth, flowing lines gave it a more organic appearance. Its teardrop-shaped headlights and arched roofline were quite radical for the time and gave the car its infamous bathtub moniker. However, this very design also contributed to its downfall. While innovative, the bathtub shape was not universally liked, and it struggled to appeal to buyers who were more accustomed to the traditional aesthetics of its competitors. Despite its attempt to stand out, the P3 was undermined by significant quality control problems. Ford had trouble maintaining consistent manufacturing standards, leading to uneven build quality across different models. This caused numerous reliability issues for owners, including rust problems that developed early in the car's life, especially in the damp climates of Northern Europe. Mechanical issues, such as faulty electrics and frequent breakdowns, further damaged its reputation. The car's on a fragile construction and susceptibility to wear and tear made it a less dependable option than its rivals in the mid-size family car market. Driving dynamics were another weak point of the Taunus P3. Though the car featured an innovative design, its handling and performance were underwhelming. The P3 was equipped with a range of engines, but even the larger ones were underpowered by the standards of the time, resulting in sluggish acceleration and disappointing top speeds. More problematic was its poor road handling. The car's soft suspension, while comfortable in urban settings, led to poor cornering stability and a vague steering feel, especially at higher speeds. This lack of agility made the P3 less enjoyable to drive, particularly when compared to its more responsive competitors like the Opel Rekord or the Volkswagen Type 3. Another issue was that the Taunus P3 failed to fully connect with its target audience. Although the design was forward-thinking, the car struggled to find a niche. Its radical aesthetics were a bit too much for more conservative buyers, and it didn't offer the premium features or performance that might have appealed to wealthier customers. At the same time, more practical buyers, looking for reliability and value, turned toward the competition, where they found better performance and fewer quality issues. This left the Taunus P3 in a difficult position, as it did not fully satisfy any particular segment of the market. Even though the Taunus P3 was only produced for a brief 4-year period, its struggles reflected broader challenges for Ford in post-war Europe. The company was trying to modernize its lineup and appeal to a growing middle class. But the P3's failure showed that innovation in design was not enough to guarantee success. Buyers wanted more than just unique styling. They expected reliability, performance, and practicality, areas in which the P3 fell short. In the end, the Wentford Taunus P3 serves as a reminder that daring design alone cannot sustain a car's success. Its curvy bathtub shape made it memorable, but its poor quality control, uninspiring driving dynamics, and mechanical issues ensured that it would never become the success Ford had hoped for. Although the P3 did pave the way for future models by showcasing a willingness to innovate, it ultimately failed to capture the public's imagination and was quickly replaced by more conventional designs in the Ford Taunus lineup. The Citroen 33, 1974 to 1980, was a compact car produced by the Spanish automaker Citroën, but its outdated design and poor performance made it a flop in the increasingly competitive European market of the 1970s, based on the already aging Fiat 850. The Citroen 133 was launched at a time when the automotive landscape was shifting rapidly, with consumers demanding more modern, efficient, and reliable vehicles. Unfortunately, the Citroen 133 failed to meet those expectations, which led to its reputation as an unremarkable and underwhelming car. One of the primary reasons for the Citroen 133's failure was its reliance on outdated technology. The car was heavily based on the Fiat 850 Citroen, a model that had been introduced in the early 1960s. By the time the Citroen 133 hit the market in 1974, its foundation was already more than a decade old. And it showed. While other manufacturers were introducing cars with front-wheel drive, more advanced suspension systems, and improved aerodynamics, the Citroen 133 clung to the rear-engine, rear-wheel drive rear's layout of its predecessor. This design, while once adequate, was becoming increasingly obsolete in the 1970s as front-wheel drive vehicles offered better handling, more efficient packaging, and improved interior space. In terms of performance, the Citroen 133 was far from impressive. Its small, underpowered engine, derived from the Fiat 850, struggled to keep up with the demands of the time. The car's acceleration was sluggish, and its top speed was limited, making it feel slow and outdated compared to its competitors. With a mere 34 horsepower, from its 903 cubic centimeter engine, the 133 was clearly lacking in the power department, which not only made it unexciting to drive, but also less practical for long-distance travel or highway driving. While the Citroen 133 may have been sufficient for urban environments, it failed to offer the versatility or performance that consumers were beginning to expect from even budget-friendly cars. Additionally, the Citroen 133's design was unappealing and old-fashioned by the time of its release. The car's boxy, utilitarian shape lacked the modern lines and aerodynamic touches that were becoming more common in European cars during the 1970s. Its small size, combined with its outdated styling, made it look more like a relic from the previous decade rather than a forward-thinking compact car. With its rounded headlights, flat panels, and lack of aesthetic innovation, the Citroen 133 was quickly overshadowed by sleeker, more stylish models from both domestic and international competitors. One of the most significant drawbacks of the Seat 133 was its build quality and reliability. Seat at the time was still finding its footing in terms of quality control, and this was reflected in the more frequent mechanical issues reported by owners of the 133. The rear engine layout caused cooling problems, particularly in warmer climates, leading to engine overheating, an issue that had plagued the Fiat 850 as well. Moreover, the car's basic construction left it prone to rust, particularly in the wet climates of Northern Europe, further diminishing its appeal and longevity. The timing of the Seat 133's launch also played a role in its failure. During the 1970s, the European automotive market was undergoing a significant transformation, driven by the oil crisis and a growing emphasis on fuel efficiency. Consumers were looking for cars that not only delivered on style and performance, but also offered better fuel economy and reliability. Unfortunately, the Seat 133's outdated engine and design meant that it could not compete effectively in this new landscape. Its fuel consumption was higher than that of newer, more efficient cars, further compounding its lack of competitiveness. Even though the Seat 133 was marketed as a budget-friendly option, it faced stiff competition from other low-cost models such as the Volkswagen Beetle, which despite its age was still more reliable and better suited for a wide range of driving conditions. Similarly, the Renault 5 Mode and the Fiat 127, both of which featured more modern front-wheel drive layouts and more efficient engines, made the Seat 133 look like an antiquated alternative. In summary, the Seat 133 failed to succeed in the market due to its outdated design, weak performance, and poor build quality. Its reliance on the obsolete Fiat 850 platform, combined with lackluster handling and mechanical issues, made it feel like a car from a previous era. As European consumers began to demand more from their vehicles, greater reliability, modern styling, and improved efficiency, the Seat 133 quickly fell out of favor, leaving it as a footnote in the history of budget cars. Despite its affordability, the car simply couldn't keep up with the pace of innovation and consumer expectations in the rapidly evolving automotive world of the 1970s. The Mazda Cadet A, 1962 to 1965, was meant to be a simple, affordable compact car, offering a budget-friendly alternative to more established models like the Volkswagen Beetle. However, despite its low price and initial appeal, the Cadet A was ultimately undermined by several key flaws that prevented it from becoming a long-term success. Its basic design flaws, poor handling, and subpar build quality rendered it less competitive compared to rivals, resulting in a short production run and leaving it largely forgotten by the time newer models emerged. One of the primary reasons for the Opel Cadet A's failure was its underdeveloped handling. The car was equipped with a rudimentary suspension system, which struggled to offer a smooth ride, especially on rougher roads. Its leaf spring rear suspension and basic engineering meant that the car was prone to body roll and instability when cornering, which affected both its comfort and safety. At a time when consumers were beginning to expect more refined driving dynamics, the Cadet A's rigid ride left much to be desired, making it less appealing for both city and highway driving. Braking performance was another significant weakness of the Cadet A. Its brakes were drum-based, and often criticized for being weak and unreliable, especially under heavy loads or during longer trips. The car's lack of stopping power could make driving it feel unsafe, especially compared to the more robust and better engineered braking systems found in cars like the Volkswagen Beetle. This issue, combined with its poor handling, led to a driving experience that felt outdated, even during the early 1960s. The macro build quality of the Cadet A also failed to meet expectations. While it was positioned as an economical vehicle, many corners were cut during its production to keep costs down, resulting in our subpar materials and finish. Consumers frequently reported reliability issues, with components wearing out prematurely and rust becoming a common problem, especially in more humid climates. Unlike its competitors, which were known for durability, the Cadet A's reputation for early rusting and mechanical breakdowns damaged its appeal, leading to dissatisfaction among owners. Additionally, the Cadet A's engine was notably underpowered. Its small 993 cubic centimeter four-cylinder engine produced only around 40 horsepower, which was considered adequate for the time, but far from exciting. This limited power output made the Cadet A sluggish, varying in both acceleration and top speed, making it struggle to keep up on highways or during overtaking maneuvers. While fuel efficiency was a priority for many during the early 1960s, the Cadet A's performance was uninspiring, and drivers quickly found it lacking compared to other cars in its class. In terms of design, the Cadet A was very much a product of its time, with a boxy, simplistic shape that lacked the flair of more stylish models. Although the car had a practical, functional appearance, it wasn't enough to stand out in a market that was becoming increasingly competitive. Its plain lines and uninspired front grille did little to excite potential buyers, particularly in an era when automakers were beginning to experiment with more modern, attractive designs. Competitors like the Volkswagen Beetle and the Fiat 600 offered more personality in their styling, making the Cadet A feel generic and unremarkable in comparison. The freighted Volkswagen Beetle was the Cadet A's most direct competitor, and it had already established itself as a reliable, well-built car with a distinctive design and a loyal following. In contrast, the Cadet A struggled to offer the same level of appeal. While the Beetle had a reputation for being tough and dependable, the Cadet A's build quality issues and lack of refinement kept it from achieving similar success. The Beetle's superior handling, build quality, and charm made it the more popular choice, leaving the Cadet A to fight an uphill battle in terms of market share. Ultimately, the Mazda Opel Cadet A failed because it was unable to compete with its more established rivals in terms of handling, braking, and overall quality. Although it was affordable and practical, the Cadet A's poor reliability and uninspired design left it overshadowed by the more refined, dependable alternatives available at the time. The car's short production run is a reflection of its limited success, as Opel quickly moved on to develop more advanced and competitive models in an effort to reclaim ground in the growing compact car market. The Cadet A may have been economically appealing, but its weak performance and design flaws ultimately relegated it to being a footnote in automotive history, unable to leave a lasting impact on the competitive landscape of the 1960s. The Chrysler Sunbeam, 1977 to 1981, was an ambitious attempt by Chrysler to penetrate the burgeoning subcompact market in the UK during the late 1970s. However, despite its initial promise, the Sunbeam quickly became known for its shortcomings, which ultimately led to its failure in a competitive landscape dominated by more established and appealing models. One of the primary reasons for the Sunbeam's failure was that it was rushed into production. Chrysler aimed to capitalize on the growing demand for small cars in the wake of the oil crisis, which made fuel-efficient vehicles increasingly attractive to consumers. In its haste, the company cut corners in the design and engineering phases, which resulted in numerous build quality issues. Many early models were reported to have poor fit and finish, leading to complaints about everything from misaligned panels to subpar interior quality. This lack of attention to detail left many potential buyers feeling underwhelmed and disappointed, especially when compared to rivals that had invested more time and resources into their products. Another significant flaw of the Chrysler Sunbeam was its prone to rust or construction. The vehicle was built during an era when rust prevention was not as advanced as it is today, and many Sunbeams suffered from severe corrosion issues, especially in areas with harsh weather conditions. Owners frequently reported rust forming in critical areas such as the wheel arches, door sills, and undercarriage. compromising the car's structural integrity and longevity. The negative reputation. Surrounding its rust issues tarnished the Sunbeam's image and discouraged potential buyers who were looking for a reliable, durable vehicle. In terms of design, the Sunbeam was uninspired and lacked the aesthetic appeal that consumers were starting to expect from their cars in the late 1970s. While competitors like the Ford Fiesta and Vauxhall Chevette offered more attractive and dynamic styling, the Sunbeam appeared relatively bland and boxy. Its design did little to stand out in a crowded subcompact market, failing to attract buyers who desired a vehicle that was not only practical, but also visually appealing. This lack of flair extended to the interior as well, where the materials used felt cheap and outdated, further diminishing the car's overall appeal. The Sunbeam's engine options were also a point of contention. While it offered a range of four-cylinder engines, they were often criticized for being underpowered and lacking refinement. The driving experience was described as unremarkable, with sluggish acceleration and poor handling dynamics, making it difficult for the Sunbeam to compete with rivals that offered a more engaging driving experience. Consumers were increasingly looking for cars that were not only economical, but also fun to drive, and the Sunbeam failed to deliver on both fronts. The wrong marketing strategy for the Sunbeam was another misstep. Chrysler aimed to position the vehicle as a practical, affordable option for families and young drivers. But this approach did not resonate well with consumers. The market was becoming more competitive, with brands focusing on offering not just affordability, but also enhanced styling and features. By failing to effectively communicate its unique selling points, the Sunbeam struggled to gain traction in a crowded marketplace filled with better designed and more reliable options. Ultimately, the Chrysler Sunbeam was unable to fulfill its potential as a strong contender in the subcompact segment. Its rushed production, quality control issues, unappealing design, and underwhelming performance combined to create a vehicle that failed to capture the hearts and minds of consumers. The car's inability to compete with rivals that excelled in both style and substance meant that it quickly fell into obscurity, leading to its discontinuation after just a few short years. In the end, the Sunbeam serves as a cautionary tale of how cutting corners in the automotive industry can result in a product that, despite good intentions, fails to meet the expectations of its target audience and falls short in an increasingly competitive market. The Daihatsu Fellow, produced from 1966 to 1977, represents an interesting chapter in the history of K cars, specifically tailored for Japan's dense urban environments. While its initial design aimed to address the practical needs of city dwellers, the Fellow ultimately fell short of expectations in several key areas, leading to its limited success and eventual discontinuation. At the heart of the Fellow's shortcomings was its underpowered engine. Designed primarily for economical city driving, the car featured a small displacement engine that delivered modest performance. While this made it suitable for navigating the crowded streets of Japanese cities, it became apparent that the Fellow struggled when faced with the demands of highway driving or steep hills. The engine's lack of power was especially noticeable during acceleration, leaving drivers feeling frustrated as they attempted to merge into faster-moving traffic or maintain a consistent speed on inclines. For many, this underwhelming performance became a significant drawback, especially when compared to its competitors, which offered a more dynamic driving experience. Safety, too, emerged as a significant concern regarding the Daihatsu Fellow. Despite being classified as a K car, which typically benefited from relaxed regulations concerning size and weight, the Fellow's design was criticized for its subpar crash safety standards. The lightweight construction that contributed to its fuel efficiency also compromised the car's structural integrity in the event of a collision. During an era when safety features were becoming increasingly prioritized by consumers, the Fellow's lack of essential elements, such as crumple zones, seat belts, and other modern safety equipment, raised alarms among potential buyers. Families and individuals alike began to seek alternatives, prioritizing vehicles that offered better protection on the road. The handling characteristics of the Daihatsu Fellow were another point of contention. The car's design did not facilitate a smooth or confident driving experience. Many drivers reported that it felt unstable, particularly at higher speeds or during sharp turns. This deficiency undermined the car's appeal as consumers began to associate driving with a sense of control and safety. Competing models, such as the Suzuki Alto and Honda Acti, provided a more engaging and satisfying driving experience, further emphasizing the Fellow's lack of responsiveness and control. Many drivers found themselves gravitating toward these alternatives, which offered superior handling and overall performance. Design-wise, the Fellow presented another challenge. While compact size is a defining feature of K cars, the Fellow's overall appearance was rather ordinary and uninspired. Its bland aesthetic failed to capture the attention of consumers who were increasingly leaning toward vehicles with more character and flair. As car design began to evolve throughout the 1960s and 1970s, vehicles like the Nissan Sunny and Honda Civic showcased distinctive looks and modern features that resonated with buyers. The Fellow's uninspired design made it less appealing, leading to its marginalization in a competitive market. This was particularly significant in an era where unique styling and individuality in car ownership were becoming more desirable among consumers. Moreover, the Fellow's performance outside Japan also hindered its prospects. While its small engine and K car classification made sense in the context of Japanese urban life, they became liabilities in other markets where consumers were demanding more power and versatility. As globalization expanded automotive markets, the Fellow struggled to compete against vehicles that offered better performance, safety, and style. Buyers in markets outside Japan, where the compact size and limited power of the Fellow were less favorable, found themselves gravitating toward vehicles that better met their expectations and driving needs. Despite its limited appeal, the Fellow did have a few redeeming qualities. Its compact size made it ideal for city driving, allowing drivers to navigate through tight spaces and park in small spots easily. The affordability of the Daihatsu Fellow also resonated with budget-conscious consumers who were looking for a simple, economical car to meet their daily transportation needs. However, these strengths were often overshadowed by the negatives surrounding the vehicle, making it difficult for the Fellow to gain a foothold in the market. In summary, the Daihatsu Fellow's journey from inception to discontinuation illustrates the myriad challenges faced by automakers in a rapidly evolving automotive landscape during the late 20th century. Its underpowered engine, safety concerns, poor handling characteristics, and uninspired design ultimately culminated in a lack of success. The Sima Videt, manufactured in France from 1954 to 1961, stands as an interesting chapter in the annals of automotive history, marked by ambition but ultimately plagued by critical shortcomings. This vehicle aimed to capture the allure of American car design and performance while catering to a distinctly European market. However, several fundamental flaws contributed to its failure, leading it to be overshadowed by more successful competitors of the time. One of the Videt's most notable features was its V8 engine, which was a significant selling point in a market increasingly fascinated with American automotive power. While the V8 offered a compelling performance metric on paper, the execution left much to be desired. The engine was often criticized for its lack of refinement. It produced vibrations that permeated the cabin, detracting from the overall driving experience. Moreover, the performance did not translate into a dynamic driving experience. The engine struggled to deliver the expected power during acceleration, especially when fully loaded, resulting in a vehicle that often felt sluggish, particularly in comparison to lighter European competitors. The build quality of the Sima Videt was another area of concern. Despite the car's promising features, the production standards did not align with the expectations of buyers. Many owners reported a variety of mechanical problems, ranging from electrical faults to issues with the suspension system. The materials used in construction were often deemed inferior, leading to premature wear and tear. This situation became a significant problem as reliability began to take precedence in consumer purchasing decisions. Cars like the Volkswagen Beetle and Peugeot 203 offered not only better reliability, but also superior overall craftsmanship, leading buyers to favor these alternatives over the Videt. Handling was a major aspect that hurt the Videt's reputation. The vehicle was notably large and heavy, traits that, while common in American automobiles, were less suitable for the narrower, more winding roads of Europe. The car's suspension system was not well suited for European driving conditions, leading to a cumbersome and unwieldy driving experience. Drivers often describe the Videt as boat-like, with a tendency to sway during cornering and a lack of responsiveness when navigating sharp turns. This contrasted sharply with the nimble handling offered by its contemporaries, such as the Citroen DS, which was celebrated for its agile performance and innovative suspension technology. As a result, many drivers found the Videt difficult and unenjoyable to drive, a significant factor that dissuaded potential buyers. Another significant issue was the size of the Sima Videt. While its larger dimensions might have seemed appealing in a time when spacious interiors were favored, it ultimately became a liability in the context of the European automotive market. The Videt's bulk made it challenging to park and maneuver in crowded urban settings, a common scenario in many European cities. Consumers increasingly sought compact cars that could easily navigate tight spaces and offer better fuel efficiency, both of which the Videt struggled to provide. This trend towards smaller vehicles rendered the Videt less attractive to the average buyer, who found practicality to be a key consideration when purchasing a car. Furthermore, while the Sima Videt aimed to emulate the lavish design and styling elements of American cars, it ultimately failed to deliver on the promise of performance and reliability. Its design elements, which included a large chrome grille and sweeping body lines reminiscent of the American style, felt somewhat forced in the context of a European vehicle. The attempt to merge these aesthetics resulted in a car that seemed out of place and lacked the finesse that European consumers had come to expect. Competitors like the Ford Cortina and Renault 12, which offered a blend of stylish design and reliable performance, quickly overshadowed the Videt, further highlighting its shortcomings. Despite its initial promise, the Sima Videt's aspirations to marry American automotive ideals with European sensibilities ultimately fell short. The combination of poor build quality, inadequate handling, and an oversized frame ill-suited for European driving led to a lack of interest from consumers. As the automotive landscape evolved, buyers gravitated toward models that offered reliability, efficiency, and a more engaging driving experience. Consequently, the Videt became an emblem of missed potential, remembered more for its ambition than its execution. Today, while it may serve as a nostalgic piece of automotive history, the Sima Videt is a cautionary tale about the challenges of adapting designs across different markets and the importance of meeting consumer expectations in an ever-competitive industry. The Glas Isar, a German compact car produced between 1958 and 1965, entered the automotive scene during a time when demand for small, affordable vehicles was on the rise. Post-war Europe was undergoing significant economic recovery, and families were seeking inexpensive transportation options. Glas, a company that initially specialized in agricultural machinery and later scooters, made the leap into car production with the Isar, hoping to capitalize on the growing market for budget-friendly cars. However, despite its ambitions, the Glas Isar failed to deliver on key fronts, leading to its eventual downfall. At first glance, the Glas Isar seemed like a car poised for success. It was a compact, lightweight vehicle designed to appeal to drivers who prioritize cost savings and efficiency. The car was relatively simple in design and was priced affordably, aiming to undercut more established brands in the compact car market. Its small size made it ideal for navigating narrow European streets, and its engine was supposed to provide enough power for basic transportation needs without being overly complex or expensive to maintain. However, beneath the surface, the Isar was plagued with significant issues that would ultimately prevent it from becoming a success story. One of the most significant problems with the Glas Isar was its engine. The car was equipped with a small, two-cylinder engine that was initially intended to be both economical and reliable. Unfortunately, it quickly became evident that the engine was anything but dependable. Numerous reports of mechanical failures emerged, with the Isar suffering from issues such as overheating, oil leaks, and frequent breakdowns. These problems were not isolated incidents, but rather widespread concerns that affected a large number of vehicles. As a result, drivers who had purchased the e-SAR for its supposed affordability soon found themselves facing expensive repair bills. Engine reliability was not the only issue that plagued the e-SAR. The car's overall build quality left much to be desired. The materials used in its construction were often substandard, leading to problems with the car's durability. Components such as the suspension, brakes, and steering mechanisms were prone to wear and tear at a faster rate than was typical for cars in the same class. This meant that even routine maintenance tasks could become costly and frequent, negating any initial savings buyers might have enjoyed from the low purchase price. Adding to the e-SAR's woes was its susceptibility to rust. Rust was a common issue for many cars produced during this era, but the gloss e-SARs seemed particularly vulnerable. Poor rust-proofing measures led to many e-SARs developing significant corrosion issues after only a few years of use, particularly in areas with harsher climates. Once rust set in, it could compromise the structural integrity of the vehicle, making it unsafe to drive and further diminishing its resale value. In terms of design, the gloss e-SAR was underwhelming. It was a small, boxy car with little in the way of distinctive styling. While some compact cars of the time managed to incorporate charm and personality into their designs, such as the Volkswagen Beetle with its iconic curves, the e-SAR lacked any such appeal. Its plain, uninspired aesthetic meant it didn't stand out in a market where consumers increasingly valued both function and form. This was especially important as more compact cars were beginning to incorporate modern design elements, making the e-SAR seem outdated in comparison. Additionally, while the car's compact size was ideal for navigating congested city streets, it came with significant trade-offs. The interior of the e-SAR was cramped, offering little comfort for passengers on longer trips. While the car's primary target market was urban dwellers who needed a simple vehicle for short commutes, the lack of interior space and comfort made it less appealing to families or individuals who wanted more versatility from their vehicle. Competing models, such as the Fiat 500 or Renault Dauphine, offered similarly small exteriors, but were better able to balance space and comfort, making them more popular with a broader range of buyers. The combination of mechanical unreliability, poor build quality, rust issues, and uninspiring design meant that the gloss e-SAR was quickly overshadowed by other, more successful models. Its competitors, such as the Volkswagen Beetle, Fiat 500, and Mini Cooper, managed to offer both affordability and reliability, two key areas where the e-SAR faltered. These cars not only built strong reputations for being dependable, but they also developed loyal followings due to their unique styling and practicality. In contrast, the e-SAR became known for its frequent mechanical failures and high maintenance costs, leaving it with little in the way of a fan base.